Discourse 10. Gentlemen and friends of America, my joy is very great today once again for the opportunity of speaking directly to the men of America. In prefacing that which I shall say to you, I wish you to understand that while the vibratory action of your physical sight does not observe me, I stand here but a few feet from the messenger, flashing these words to him. The only reason you do not see me is because of the greater intensity of the vibratory action of my body. In the wintertime, in your city, when you see the electric lights, you see a radiance around them, do you not? Just so with beings who have set themselves free from the human limitations which are in the human form. And why are the limitations there in the human body, the human form? Because you have caused the light pattern in your human form to be clothed by discord in your feelings. The greatest power before humanity today is in understanding first that simplicity, that it is only discord acting within the feelings of mankind which has deprived them of every good thing that life holds for them. If you will understand this, you will set yourself free. Absolutely free, if you care to accept, understand, and apply this great law. Gentlemen, there is not all mankind put together that can deprive any one of you of applying this law to so harmonize yourself and your world that the powers of life will bring to you every good thing that exists in your stream of life. It is time now that mankind come to understand that there is no power of human creation that can limit or harm mankind, because mankind have given power and attention to other persons, places, and conditions to limit or harm them by their own stream of life. They have conveyed that feeling into other persons, places, and conditions to harm them, but that time is passing very rapidly. That is why I want you to understand that we, as ascended beings, are even more real than you are. But because the vibratory action of our bodies is so much more rapid by the freedom and purity of it, we are not visible to the ordinary physical sight. Yet every one of you has within your brain the all-seeing eye of God, so that as your attention is given to the beloved mighty I Am presence, which is your source of life, God individualized, you will find that both the all-seeing eye and the all-hearing ear within you will become attuned to your source of life, the mighty I Am, and you will receive directly that directing wisdom, that strength and energy which the messenger before you is able to receive. These two messengers, as many of you know, have limitless energy and do release it. That is more than human, and they are able to release whatever they require at any time. This is the need of the business world and the men in the business world today. I want you to realize, if you will, how important it is to bring this mighty perfection and understanding of life into the world of industry, into the government, in order that mankind may no longer be deceived. The intrigue and treachery which exists in all capitals of the world is the most tragic thing on the face of this earth. Gentlemen, you who might have been in some of your capitals know the subtlety, the treachery that is used to inveigle mankind into a condition where they are unable to govern themselves. There are thousands of conditions today. I sound this warning to you, for many of you have experienced it. People pretend friendship, and you know the prevailing idea that mankind must drink intoxicating things to be sociable. A subtle scheme to get your own will off guard so that you subject yourself to their will. You will notice, gentlemen, that whatever that has been, those who insist upon your taking intoxicating liquors will seldom take but a touch themselves. That is why so much destruction has gone into the world. Gentlemen, be strong enough to resist that treacherous thing that unfits you to cope with the conditions about you. Another condition that exists in the world and is so subtle and so cunning is the activity of dope throughout America and the world, which is used in the forms you would not imagine, dozens of which have not yet been discovered, but I assure you they will be before another year is over your head. Then, gentlemen, if you cannot be reached in any other way, they will bring to you a beautiful woman to try to get you under their clutches. In Washington, in all the capitals of the world, that vile thing is done constantly, and unsuspecting young men and older men succumb to it because of that pretense of friendship. These are the things that mankind are bound to awaken to and be free from. That is why I say, gentlemen, just the same as exists today in the 100% groups all over America, spies of vicious individuals have been sent into those groups pretending to be 100% students when they care nothing about anything but whispering destructive, vicious gossip among the students to try to get them to pit themselves against each other. But this is fast being revealed and understood, and mankind will no longer subject themselves to these conditions. Now, gentlemen, I have seen it, for my experience has been very great. Remember, I have been a businessman in the world for 400 years, never losing outer consciousness for a second. Even before my ascension, I was able to retain my body in health, strength, and perfection for hundreds of years. Therefore, I know what is in mankind. I know all the intrigue of the nations of the earth, for I have been in all of them. In Europe, in centuries past, because I was able to do these things, I was accused of everything on the face of the earth but the truth. But that, gentlemen, is not my part of the work. Those who accuse me, and did, will one day meet that accusation. That is what I want you to understand today, that every condition that goes out from your feeling world is compelled to return to you because you are its creator. If you want success in your business, if you want success in your home, love, happiness, and perfection, then you must pour out love and kindness. It does not make any difference what somebody else does. It is a matter of keeping your own feeling world harmonious enough until the power of light can flow through in greater intensification. Keep yourself harmonious so the wisdom of life can act and inspire and impel you not to follow the mistakes mankind has been subject to in the past. That is how mankind, in the application of the law of life, takes this great chart before you and understand what it means. It shows you what these great truths are and how you can apply them in your business. I have seen the great majority of mankind in the business world, and in more recent years, perhaps the last 30 years, as the greater intensity of discord increased, mankind was ashamed to outwardly acknowledge God in their business. My dear friends, without God, you would not be here. Without your source of life, the mighty I am, as indicated there on that chart, you would not be here. You could not lift your hand. You could not think a thought. That source of life is all you are. If you've made mistakes in wrongly qualifying or clothing life by that feeling of discord, then you are responsible. You are to blame, but not life. Don't ever blame life for anything. Life is perfection. Life is wisdom. Life is power. If allowed to flow forth through your mind and body by harmonized action in your feelings, it will produce perfection for you, and nothing in the world can prevent it. I tell you, gentlemen, the day has come when businessmen are going to take God, the mighty I am, into business, and are going to stand on their own 2 feet and look their associates square in the eye and say, I am, and I am student. I acknowledge my source, God, the mighty I am, as my directing intelligence, my power of activity, my freedom from human mistakes. Then mankind will find an activity of business in America that will spread its radiance everywhere. Divine order, divine justice, and harmony will reign in all industry, and the communistic, vicious, devilish thing will be wiped out of America forever. Gentlemen, while you are on your feet, let this mighty current flow through you while I speak these next few words. If you could understand, as I do, I have spent much time in Europe recently to prevent the vicious destruction from entering America that has been planned there for 12 or 15 years. In fact, ever since the beginning of the recent World War. I know what they are doing. You do not. But I thank the power of the cosmic law, which has recently given me the permission and the power to use my wisdom and judgment in the protecting of America. By that infinite power of light, it shall be used. This time my effort of centuries shall not fail. I told these beloved messengers shortly after they started forth, when I asked them to go forth and give out this great light, that every vicious thing that had ever been said about them would be proved wrong. It is being done today. Therefore, gentlemen, I want you to realize that you have beating your heart the power of the universe, the power of light. And when you are willing to acknowledge that, your source, God, the mighty I am, as the only acting presence and intelligence in you, you will be able to pour it out before you in its mighty harmonizing power. All individuals you contact will feel that harmony, respond to it, and give obedience to your stream of life, because it holds only divine order and justice within it. Won't you be seated? No longer will mankind be able to go on destroying each other, blaming persons, places, and conditions for a thing that exists alone in their own feeling world. When mankind humanly cannot have their own way, in most cases, they turn very vicious. For instance, as an illustration, this unfortunate creature, who is unnamed, in Los Angeles, has spread such vicious falsehoods all over the world concerning the messengers. The messenger has his letter of such gratitude to them in the first few classes that he attended. Then he conceived the idea of driving into the staff to become one of them, and because the messenger saw within him that which was impossible, he was refused. From that time he turned vicious for no reason at all. That is how mankind, thwarted in the human desire, become vicious, not only from that angle but various angles in life. That is unfortunate for them, for I shall say to the whole world how vicious and untruthful he has been, and all others who have tried to slander these beloved messengers. Dear one, let us come back now to all that this understanding means to you in your success, whether you be an artist, a musician, a man in the world of industry, or in official capacity, a lawyer, judge, or governmental official. Everywhere the demand of life today is in the acknowledgement, acceptance, and the calling forth of that great power of life to take command in you and go before you in your activity. Now, this is not anyone's human opinion, but this is the demand of life, which mankind have pushed aside century after century. It is quite true you have lived hundreds and thousands of embodiments. Many of mankind do not accept it, but that does not alter the truth. Therefore, when you realize that you have been given opportunity after opportunity, gentlemen, and now today that the great number who have expansion of the light within themselves to understand through their feeling, when they touch this great truth, that it is what they have sought all their lives. That is the exact comment of thousands and thousands of people who have come in touch with this great light. How do they know it? By their own light within their hearts. Gentlemen, your physical heart is the knower within your physical body, and when you respond to your heart, you will soon come to do the right and perfect thing, always. I say to you, gentlemen, if you wish to become successful, go into your office. If you have a staff of boys under you, you don't wish to do it before them, and pour out your love and blessing of life upon your employees. and you will find them pouring back their love and blessing to you and your business. I say to the employees, the money you are accepting for your service, that is only a fragmentary part of it. You are giving your life to that service, and since it is the source of your opportunity of service, you should bless your employer with all the power of divine love and blessing you can call forth from your presence of life. That will stand forever in its ever-expanding activity. Then divine order and divine justice will reign in your midst. But I tell you, gentlemen, as long as you allow these agitators to come into your midst and stir up your employees, you will never know peace, and neither will they. We honor Henry Ford more than we can ever tell you. He has had the backbone and stamina to stand up and defy those agitators. His divine order and justice, in spite of all the stories that are started to the contrary, have made him a powerful light. I tell you, gentlemen, everyone who will come to know and understand the power that beats in his heart, that it is infinite, that it can spread its mighty radiance into his office and out into his business activity and make it a glorious success of divine order and justice to all concerned, will have entered into the real business of life. And not until then. All outside of that is a temporary thing. Mankind fluctuating one way and then another, the pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other. But when you stand in the fulcrum of the glory of that mighty balance of life, then you will feel the full power of your life stream of activity, hold its dominion, and produce its perfection there. This is the requirement of the day. Gentlemen, there can not longer be going on in your beloved America these destructive qualities. I could tell you some things today that would almost make your hair stand up. On the other hand, things that would rejoice you beyond words to express, because I am in a position to know the intent of every human being. Therefore, I say to you, join me, if you will, in issuing these mighty decrees. I know, gentlemen, when you come for the first time into some of these classes and you hear these mighty decrees issued, it sounds silly and foolish to you at first. It is not. Let me tell you, it is the mightiest thing on the face of this earth. You don't realize, gentlemen, that you are a mental and feeling being. You think sometimes that all you are is in the outer manifestation in your physical form. But don't you see? I ask you to observe just a moment while we digress and show you why this is so. When a so-called dead body lies before you, having been fully and all-powerfully active a few moments before, then something withdrew from that physical structure, did it not? That which was animating that physical body and giving it strength, intelligence, and power to act came through that stream of life. It was life acting within the physical form. Then life withdrew and the body was perfectly helpless. There isn't a human being on the face of this earth who can deny that. Then, if the power of life was animating and acting within that human form, then you are life in action. You are a mental and feeling being. Instead of your previous understanding, which thought that your mental capacity was all there was, that your thoughts were the thing to be controlled and governed, if you wish to be harmonious and successful, you found that idea was a mistake also, because your feeling world is your powerhouse. Until your feeling is governed, all the thought and correction in the world will not help you. When you have changed your feeling, you have changed the whole structure of your body and your world of activity. When you understand the necessity of holding your feeling world harmonious, then the full power of life will naturally flood forth in a greater volume of action, and you will find your world harmonious, and success is yours. Think of the difference between the natural flow of life, which would in time produce the same effect, and your acceptance, your acknowledgement, your call to your presence of life, the mighty I am. releasing a greater spontaneous activity and release your life into your world at your call, 10 times, 20 times greater than perhaps years of the natural outpouring of life through harmony in your feeling would produce. That is why the messengers have been able to produce such astonishing effects in their life and the perfection of this work and the activity, because they have come to know that their call to the presence of life is all powerful. And why, gentlemen? Now, notice this. It is as practical as your mechanics is practical as your automobile. You see about that figure on the chart, the upper figure, the rays of light going forth. When you call to the presence of life to go into the activity and produce its perfection and harmony there, your higher mental body projects one of those light rays into the requirement of it and holds it there until harmony is established. The powers of light flow in there and establish harmony and produce harmony to all. That is an infallible, dependable activity. When mankind learn to use that, they will produce such perfection in the world, in all governmental positions, in all city activities, and your deceitful politicians will cease to be. Gentlemen, do you quite understand what has produced perhaps the greatest havoc in your world of industry today? Your middleman, so to speak, that sees an opportunity of clawing the greater amount of money from both the producer and the consumer. When the people of America arise and choose a man to put in as a distributor and pay him a certain right and livable salary, your troubles will cease from the earth, from your world of industry. That will remove the opportunity to deprive the producer of that which belongs to him and cause the consumer to pay 10 times what the thing is worth. Balance of life is what is required, and this will produce the balance of life in the world of industry. Therefore, I say to you, gentlemen, that the time has arrived. Now, let us come into the greater activity for the moment. You have understood by outer scientific explanation that the cosmic light was a universal established thing. That is true in one sense, but that which we speak of and the messengers speak of as the cosmic light is a wholly different thing, not too much in quality but in direction. The cosmic light we referred to is released from the central focus, which the messengers have come to know as the great central sun, the central focus of all life, consciousness, and directing intelligence to this system of the planets. Then, when that great cosmic light is projected, it is projected consciously by the ascended beings who have charge of it. That is consciously directed rays of light and energy which we refer to that are bringing about this great change on the earth. You have not seen so much change yet, but with your cooperation, you will see plenty. Abundant change already has taken place if mankind care to observe it. But the pressure of human, destructive activities keeps holding the attention until mankind see that, rather than the perfection which is coming in. Still, with the acceptance that we have today in America, shall that power of light increase in its intensity. Now, gentlemen, let me advise you of one thing. I think that there are but few in America who have not felt and held a certain respect for the Statue of Liberty in your harbor in New York. I mean by that the involuntary feeling within individuals. There has been a reason for that. That represents one of the greatest cosmic beings, the goddess of liberty, whom I know personally, and who has been the greatest assistance to America of any being in existence. But for her, I would never have been able to accomplish what has been done thus far. The goddess of liberty is a real and mighty cosmic being, and is the one who gave to Washington that magnificent vision, the third episode of which you are facing today. Therefore, gentlemen, she, having seen that more than 200 years ago, also saw a hope for the possibility of preventing that last episode, which is rapidly on its way today. That is what mankind should understand, and on bended knee give praise and thanks to life and to that great cosmic presence for having stood the protecting angel over America. When I sought for greater authority, greater power to give this assistance to mankind today, authority to annihilate the destructive forces, then she went to that mighty central focus of light and power, to this system of planets, and, by her intercession, called forth at regular intervals these mighty cosmic impulses. On Wednesday, before the opening of the class here, the greatest of all was released to Earth. Therefore, gentlemen, you do not realize it even though you believe my words. Still, you cannot comprehend fully all that means, because it is an invincible activity. The pressure of the outer world has caused mankind to believe all that is real is what they see out here. How foolish! My dear ones, all the power you use in your electric plant is invisible. You have your generators creating the currents, generating them, but you don't see the currents unless you have 2 points of the arc contacting and you see the flash between. That is a power, and in all things in this universe, the great power is invisible. As mankind expand the light within themselves at their call, then the vibratory action will be raised until they see these things perfectly, naturally. Everything in life is a lower or higher rate of vibratory action, which is according to the attention that is given to life. Therefore, gentlemen, if you care to, read, understand, and apply this great law. No one can apply it for you, only give you a certain amount of assistance. But if you do not care to do that yourself, you cannot have the blessing of it. I don't care how big you are or how little you are in business. Don't be foolish. The power of life can withdraw from those bodies this instant, and you will be as helpless as the poorest creature on earth. Don't let pride and vanity make you, because you have accomplished and acquired a certain amount of money. Don't let it make you egotistical and foolish. That power of light, which is beating your heart, is the power and intelligence that did that. Not that human form through which it is acting. If that human form gave obedience or held an intense desire, then that gave life the opportunity in its concentrated action to accumulate that money for you. But the physical never did it in the world. And don't you forget it. Therefore, gentlemen, you are dealing with life, the greatest, mightiest thing in the universe, when you understand how, where, and what that life is, and give your attention and adoration to it. Gentlemen, does it sound feminine to ask you to give your adoration to life? We, who have become free beings, one day saw the necessity of that. And when we gave that adoration to life, we had the full power of life flowing through our bodies and producing its perfection there. Gentlemen, I have the wealth of the world at my command. But do you think that amounts to anything? What amounts to the greatest thing in my life is my ability to control my feeling world and hold it harmonized, which gives it a mighty, real activity for life to flow through in its perfection. Do you understand that this stream of life, before it touches the top of the head of the individual, is wholly, pure, perfect, and all-powerful, and would produce your perfect, beautiful, handsome body filled with health if left alone and not charged with the discord in your feeling? That is why, gentlemen, at last the understanding of life has come forth. We do not try to compel anybody. We just wait. And all who are really willing to accept our assistance, our wisdom, which has come forth in the St. Germain series of books, and the mighty instruction which these beloved messengers give, it is there for you if you care to accept it. We welcome you with all our hearts. If you don't, we will bless you just the same. But mankind, every one of them, mark what I tell you and watch it. In the next few years, mankind, if they are going to succeed, if they are going to have health, if they are going to have happiness, they are going to have to understand this presence of life. The reason for that is, it is the culmination of the ages, gentlemen, and there are two tremendous powers acting, the powers of darkness and the powers of light. If you join the powers of darkness, you will soon cease to be. If you join the powers of light, you have the infinite power of the universe at your command. I am practical. You never saw an individual in your life more practical than I am. For I know the fullness of life of all in the universe and what it is manifesting. Therefore, I want you to understand that there is nothing fantastic about this. There is nothing psychic nor spiritualistic. There is nothing but the pure action of life. And if understood, everything dissolves before it. That is why, gentlemen, I offer you today this opportunity and my hand in assistance in your business, in anything to which you direct your attention that is constructive. We have, many times in the past 2 years, helped various gentlemen who were going to abject failure in their business by telling them and showing them how the thing that was destroying them was the inharmony that had crept into their midst. And when they understood and set about to reverse it and pour out love and blessings upon their employees, they came back into a greater success than ever. That is what everyone can do. Therefore, divine order, gentlemen, is coming into America. If you will join the great body of the students of the mighty I Am, stand by it, and issue these mighty decrees, you will find everything dissolving and disappearing, all discord in your America. Now, we are speaking about individuals. Individuals comprise your nation. And if the majority of individuals come to understand this presence of life and how to call its mighty light rays into action, do you not see how you will govern everything concerning your America, its protection, its divine order and justice to mankind, the only means on earth of making it permanent? You can go into war and destroy millions of people, and your position stands there just the same as before. People have gone to war and become exhausted and have, for the time being, manifested a certain sense of peace. But good heavens, if you saw what was going on in the feeling world, the hatred released by that activity, you would know it is only a short time until it will repeat itself again. That is what has occurred in all wars on earth from the beginning. War is never the solution of anything. Neither is quarreling between individuals any solution of anything that exists. When mankind put their human pride in their pocket, or better still, in the violet consuming flame, they will know that their problems have ceased. Because some individuals say some nasty, vicious thing to you, is it any reason why you should allow yourself to get all out of harmony? Just because they have been foolish? Gentlemen, you see, any expression of that kind shows how foolish the other individual is. Therefore, you should be strong enough and say, that is your opinion. You cannot disturb me. And see how magnificent your power would be. Look, gentlemen, this humble messenger before you, all the vicious things that have been said about him would fill volumes. But he doesn't mind what is said. It cannot harm him. It can only harm the individual who says it and sends it forth. Every conceivable attempt on the face of this earth has been made to try to stir up his feeling and get him off guard, but they have not been able to do it. Gentlemen, you may thank me if you like, but don't forget to thank him for being strong enough to hold his harmony so that the powers of light can flow through to give this assistance to mankind. Won't you be seated, please? Therefore, you are dealing with a reality, gentlemen. You are not dealing with anybody's human opinions. The words which we give you are wisdom of long centuries of experience and achievement. If you care to use them, you will have the identical same experience that we have. We set ourselves free. Once we stood in limited bodies just like yours. Gentlemen, I want to call your attention to that series of books. Now, it does not make any difference to me how great you are in business if you will take Unveiled Mysteries and The Magic Presence first. Take them in the quiet of your own office and spend 1 hour a day and read those books and feel the truth that is there. You will be a transformed being. And don't you forget it. Every word in those books is true. His own experience with me. A gentleman came to him last evening, or the night before, I believe it was, and said, "How about that statement that you made in the beginning of Unveiled Mysteries, where you said you went to Mount Shasta on government business?" The messenger said to him, "That is quite true, but your interpretation, and jumping to the conclusion that that was outer employment of the government, was your mistake. He was there with me on government business of the most vital importance to mankind. But it was the inner activity of life, not outer connection with the government. It is those things that vicious individuals have seized upon to try to find discrepancies, which exist alone in their own vicious minds. The messengers could explain everything that is there with a clearness that anybody could understand, but he does not choose to do it. When individuals get vicious, he just lets them go on until their viciousness one day destroys them, because they do it willfully. Dear, beloved friends of America, fellow students and gentlemen, there is not one thing that can harm you or the messengers as long as you remain harmonious and call the presence of life into action. Therefore, I want you to understand in your business, if it is not what you wished it to be, you do not have to spread it to your employees. But if you feel a little timid in acknowledging it, go into the secrecy of your office and call the powers of the mighty I Am into action, and do not say God. Let me show you the difference between the expression God and the words I am. God, as understood by the mass of mankind throughout the centuries, is an omnipresence somewhere. The words I am are the announcement of the individualized presence of God at your point in the universe, the authority, power, and wisdom acting when you issue those calls. There is not anyone, even the helpless individual lying on his back in bed, that cannot speak those words. And if he speaks them with firm enough determination, he would arise and walk. You today, in your business, if you can put away foolish human pride, stand on your 2 feet and raise your hands if it gives you a greater feeling of the presence, and say, "Mighty I Am Presence, silence this thing forever. You take command of my mind and being, produce your perfection, hold your dominion, and pour your mighty radiance into my world and activity and over my business. You take command and make it your success." You will see how quickly your business will flourish. Harmony, reign, and the happiness of all about you will bless you forever. That is how the business of the future is bound to be conducted, gentlemen. Why have mankind been made to believe that they had to fight for everything? Because it was a sinister force of human destructive creation that was impelling that idea and feeling into mankind so that they might pit themselves against each other and finally destroy each other. That is why. But today, thanks to the great presence of life, this is rapidly being dissolved. I say to you, gentlemen, that today, or if not today, in a few days, a mathematical statement will be made to you of that which has been thus far accomplished in your city since the return of the messengers. We deal with reality, gentlemen, in everything. We are not the slightest concerned with human opinion or the amount of money you have. The reality of life is the thing we are concerned with and what we call into greater activity through mankind. Everyone who will give the presence their attention first, then if they care to direct their attention to us, back from one of us or many will come those mighty light rays to enfold you and hold you in the great balance of life until your call will produce such perfection as you could not imagine. I refer to the messengers because it is an outstanding thing in life. When I asked them to go forth and carry this work, I did not offer them a dime. They owed 5 months' rent, but they had learned to give me that joyous obedience. They did not ask me how it was coming about. They never said a word, but they went forward. And see the results. I could have released to them $10 million in actual physical cash, but that would not have been any benefit to them. It would have let them go forth, but their application in their seeming necessities was what has given them their freedom. And your application is the only thing that will ever give you your freedom. You may have $10 billion, but if that is your God instead of life, you will never know what happiness, peace, and freedom are. I say to you, gentlemen, I can take the seemingly most lowly among you with the least finances, and if they will give me exact obedience as the messengers have, I can make them the greatest success in 5 years that you ever saw. That is the application of life, but that is only a fragmentary part, gentlemen. The success of physical life is beautiful, most worthy, but the perfection of yourself is 1,000 times more valuable than all the wealth you can accumulate about you. You can have it in the harmonizing of yourself, the very natural activity. The law of life will produce success for you in spite of anything you can do. If you are harmonious enough and remain so, the very law of life will direct you into the perfect activity that your stream of life wants you to have. If you are harmonious enough, that is how the great law of life is so simple. Won't you sit down? I thank you, gentlemen, for your attention and your receptivity today. While the messenger has voiced these words, I have been able to do for you that which was beyond my expectation. Now, the reason for that is this. Please, will you feel that everything you are, ever hope to be, or have must come through your feeling world? There is no other place it can come. Therefore, it is imperative for your feeling world to be harmonious long enough for life to have washed out, as it were, of your physical body and feeling world all discord and all imperfection. When enough of that has been done, then the power of life will flow forth. It will seem to be a perfectly natural thing, but with a power you cannot conceive of today. Only by actual experience can you prove this great law, and only by application will it find its outpicturing for you. Therefore, the messengers are giving this forth, leaving every human being free to accept or reject if they like. The only thing they ask is for people to come into the room and be harmonious. If you don't like the work, please do not come. Therefore, gentlemen, I want you to feel today that I am just as interested in you. I am just as interested in the success of your business, of your illumination and perfection, perhaps far more than you are just at the present yourselves, even among the former or earlier students, I should say. Do you know, gentlemen, that in the higher ideals of life, because of the human discordant pressure about you, you can listen to a thing 12 or 15 times and still not comprehend it? That is why the messengers have asked if people come into the classes, if they will come in 2 or 3 times and get the fundamentals, then they will understand more readily what follows. You come into a 10-day class just once and try to form judgment. It would be incredible. Impossible. Therefore, you see how practical the messengers are in everything they do. Remember, you never saw, and neither did anyone else in this world, 2 people go forth and never ask a human being for a dime and have released by their call to the presence the limitless supply of money they required to carry on this work, as has been done at their call. The whole world knows that, and they never will do otherwise. They instruct every group leader in America never to call their groups individually for financial supply. Stand them upon their feet and issue the decree to the presence for the supply they require, and the powers of light will see it comes about in divine order. They have proven this to the entire world, and there is no honest individual who can deny it. Therefore, they are dealing with a power and activity of life called forth at their command. Gentlemen, it ought to be interesting to every human being on the face of this earth. They have their freedom, which nothing in creation can take away. Everyone can do the same thing if they give obedience and make the dynamic application. You cannot imagine the dynamic application these two humble beings made in a day the first year I asked them to go forth, because they knew to some slight degree what they were up against. I said to them before they started forth, "Do you realize what you are going to meet?" They said, "Perhaps, somewhat." But I knew they did not comprehend but slightly what they were going to face. I was there to stand back of them, and blessed ones, they are the proof to the entire world of the mighty power and activity of this great law of life. Therefore, I wish you today to carry this, my great love and kindness, in your heart. Think of me sometimes, if you will, if you are here for the first time. Then see whether or not your feeling world does not change, and you feel a peace and rest you never knew were there. Make your call whether you quite believe that presence is there above you or not. Make the call a few times, then give your attention to me and see whether you do not come to realize it is quite true. Gentlemen, I am not ashamed to say that I love you. I want to see you happy and successful. I want to see you a part of the freedom of America, the only spot left on earth where there is a possibility of bringing this forward. Therefore, we have chosen it. We love the whole world, but in the chaos that exists, there are only a few individuals who can even feel the great love and harmony we try to pour forth to them. Therefore, in America, we are winning steadily and surely that mighty victory for blessed mankind and the protection and freedom of America. Remember, this expansion of the light is educational. It is powerful. And while you are dealing with the presence, the power of life, some of the world have considered it as religious. Yet it is a law, not a religion. It is the mightiest activity of life. Therefore, it is the only thing that will cause the religious of the world to survive, and they come to understand the presence of life individualized. The great cosmic light projected by these great beings from the central focus for this system of planets is taking its command. And the people who give obedience to that will find first will come the freedom of America. Then let us see what will happen to the rest of the world. If you saw the seething vortex that existed in Europe and the Orient, in most of Europe and the Orient today, you would think that there was not a hope for Europe, all because of the vile, vicious agitators that are there, the dictators. They shall cease to be. I thank you, gentlemen, for your attention and trust that I have been somewhat instrumental in clearing your feeling world and understanding what is required for you. If you care to give obedience to that life, then I will give you every assistance possible. For remember, as an ascended being, I am not limited in my capacity. Neither are any of the other ascended beings, and there are many hundreds of them. Therefore, as mankind give attention to the presence of life first, then to these great beings of life, there will pour forth to them these mighty light rays that will hold them in the perfect balance of life. As they give obedience by harmony in their feelings, everything will come into divine order in their stream of life and the activity that is required there. For remember, in that stream of life flowing into you is love, wisdom, and power in balanced form. When you call your mighty I Am presence into action, that same love, wisdom, and power is acting in balanced form. Then you will understand why it can produce such gigantic results for you. If you care to apply it, you will have that great blessing that will set everyone free. May the powers of eternal light bless you and enfold you in its mighty presence, its directing intelligence, its invincible protection, and hold you sustained in the purity and perfection of life forever. I thank you.